So our subject in May was "It Can't Be True." As we got nearer the day that I was to present, I realised nothing was coming to mind at all. Absolutely nothing. So I thought I'd just start writing. Musings on writer's block. I played with ideas with our theme in my mind, but each way I looked it was blocked. I walked and I thought, then I gave it a rest, but still inspiration was locked. What facts could I doubt? Incredulous be as a barefaced lie was presented. Could a shocking reality rear up its head, or news of a dastard repented? Some obvious routes for my thinking felt sad, too futile to put into words. To question the way that our lives are being steered like animals drifting in herds. A dialogue, maybe, to give the thing life. But no, I can't think about talking. How can I construct a script as I sit with my ears full of crows wildly squawking? The garden is chilly, its succour withheld, gone is the feel of contentment. But maybe a spark of a plan will emerge if I let go of all this resentment. It just feels so helpless to search for the muse, who is hiding so far from my view. But to say that the art of creation can die, well, I'm sorry, it cannot be true.
Sisyphus was pushing his rock up the hill when down came Jack, quickly followed by Jill. Jack's head, with a crack, pushed the boulder off track. Sisyphus's cry was furiously shrill as he shouted, "Every day it's the same! Do you think my labours are a game?" Jill replied, "This is no caper. I've run out of vinegar and brown paper, and you've just got rocks on the brain." "Watch out!" cried Jack in pain. "This is driving me insane. Here comes that mindless hawk, the Duke of bloody York, and his marching men again, and again, and again, and again."
Thundering down the runway in a high-tech jumbo jet, I quickly realised I was arriving into a different world. Within 100 yards of nearly the full length of the runway and stretching as far as I could see was a complete shanty town of dwellings jammed together, made from bits of wood, corrugated sheeting and material. As the plane turned to taxi back, I could see on the other side they were constructing a new runway. What looked like an army of ants were hundreds of men with pickaxes or shovels, digging out and throwing the dirt into trailers, being towed away by a Victorian steam engine, the only piece of machinery. Leaving the airport, the first thing I noticed was a haze over the city, and the smell, a mixture of exhaust fumes and spices. I was being taken to Ludhiana, a major textile district, by road. I soon realised the most important item on a car is the horn, which for the next 5 hours sounded about every 30 seconds. The traffic was unbelievable. Cars, motorbikes, but most of all, swarms of tuk-tuks just racing about, weaving in and out, cutting across from all angles with their drivers' hands waving in all directions and tooting all the time. Highway code non-existent. I hoped I would never have to cross the road because it appeared impossible. Once out of Delhi, the traffic was still unbelievable, but had changed from tuk-tuks to packed, multicoloured buses with children sitting on suitcases on the roofs, and wagons overladen with all kinds of sacks swaying all over. Suddenly, All the traffic pulled to the side as a bullock pulling a cart piled high came slowly down the outside lane of our side of the dual carriageway, going in the opposite direction. More disconcerting was nearly every 50 yards for the 200-mile journey, lying in the ditches were wrecks of crashed and burnt-out buses and wagons, enough to keep a scrap metal yard in business for years. Going through the villages, I saw hordes of scantily clad children waving and holding out begging bowls. There were dozens of little stalls with people trying to sell bits of fruit or homemade wares. The sight of so much poverty was difficult to take in. On my first night, I was invited to one of the mill owners' homes for dinner. From the road, the house couldn't be seen as it was surrounded by high fencing. 2 poorly dressed men sitting on the pavement guarded the main gate and checked us in. Inside was a grand mansion surrounded by a beautiful, perfectly manicured garden. I was greeted by my host, who was dressed in an immaculate embroidered Indian suit, and introduced to his wife and 2 older teenage daughters. They were dressed in beautiful silk saris and were dripping with gold and diamond necklaces, bangles and rings. They even had diamond rings on their toes. Drinks were served in the opulent living room by a set of servants. Before passing through to the dining room, I was shown their private prayer room, which was larger than our ground floor. The many courses of the vegetarian dinner were made by numerous, anxious-to-please servants. Just before desserts, one of the daughters turned to me and said, "Barry, do you know, I've had the most terrible day today." "Oh dear, I'm sorry to hear that," I said. "Do you know, I've had to help preparing the strawberries for dinner tonight," she continued. "Really?" I responded with suitable surprise. "Yes. Today we have gone down from 26 to 23 servants." "It must be extremely difficult for you," I replied, managing to keep a straight face. "You are quite right. I just don't know how we are going to manage."
A different culture. While sitting in my Petri dish, I begin to wonder about my beginnings. So I take to the internet. Wikipedia says, apparently without irony, that the Petri dish has entered popular culture. Unicode has a Petri dish emoji, and I may see also microbial art. Is it just me in here? Hashtag just sitting around. But I'm not just sitting, I'm multiplying. There's all my nano-irrationalities brewing and getting oh so very multitudinous, quite specific to me in my dish, or so I think. Wikipedia, help me, I'm stuck inside. Shows me a gorgeous Petri dish of an 8-year-old child's handprint after they had played outside. I look at my own hands, but I don't have them anymore. Just a gooey surface with lumps and bumps of perhaps melted brain. Up there in the microscope, I'm conscious, can you see? Over here, it's me.
Oh. Hello.
Hi, Val, it's Joan.
Oh, hi, Joan. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks. How was the rock festival then? Was it up to
Oh,
your
it was awesome
expectations?
and did not disappoint. Non-stop music all weekend of the highest caliber. My only complaint was that as there were several gigs on at the same time, it was difficult to choose which one to go to.
Did you partake of any illegal substances?
You must be joking. No chance of anything like that at the holiday camp, or resort as they like to call it now. It's not like being at a festival in a muddy field. If you get caught with anything dodgy at the resort, it's immediate ejection.
Oh, just sex, alcohol, not drugs and rock and roll then?
Funny you should say that. I was flabbergasted to bump into Brad from our village.
Oh, is he the one who's sweet on you?
Well, having escaped from the wife for the weekend, he went into overdrive. I spent half the time fighting him off.
And what about the other half of the time? Am I to assume that you didn't fight him off?
Well, I managed to keep him at bay until the last night, and he surreptitiously followed me back to my room. As I unlocked the door, he pushed me inside and caught me in the most breathtaking embrace. The lack of oxygen made me collapse onto the bed.
Oh, come off it. That's the most pathetic excuse I've ever heard for having illicit sex.
Now, don't you be jumping to conclusions.
No.
I'm not saying whether I did or I didn't.
Well, I know what your resistance is like after several martinis.
I have no further comment to make on the matter.
I hope to God his Amazonian wife doesn't find out. She'll have you hung, drawn and quartered.
Quite. I trust I can rely on your discretion.
As always.
I must go. I'm running late. Kev's been round for bed and brunch and I couldn't get shot of him.
Another one whose wife will be after your hide.
Well, I don't go chasing after them.
But they're a complete waste of space, apart from the fact that you risk being slaughtered by one of the other halves.
Look, I must dash. Paul, my nouveau beau, is coming round for supper, and I've got to get rid of the evidence of the previous incumbent before he arrives.
I'll be off then. Don't want to spoil your chances with the only man you know without a wife in tow.
Yeah, okay.
Bye.
All right, cheers, bye.
Bye.